So moving forward a little bit, I shared with you before, but I just absolutely love watching your performances on YouTube. There's something very genuine and you look so at ease and it's like just sighing a deep, deep breath. Like it feels very comfortable. And there's a particular recording on YouTube that I go back to very regularly, and it's the your performance at Curtis of the Haydn Divertimento. And
Mhm.
again, it just you embody the music so well with all the different phrasing and colors that you get out um, in that performance. And I remember listening to your interview with Jolt on Living the Classical Life and how you
Mhm.
shared that you were maybe a little bit more shy as a kid personally, but when you were on stage, you felt less shy, which I found very fascinating. Um, have you always had this natural sense of comfortability on stage, or is this something that came with experience?
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, I always loved the feeling of being able to share music with others, and I started, pretty for me, performing was always um, it went hand in hand with my development. Like it was always something that I tried to seek out opportunities to play for people very early because to me that felt like that's the reason why I'm playing is because I also want to share, as what I'm doing. Yeah, it's interesting, looking back. For instance, that interview was a few years ago that you mentioned, and actually, I'm much less shy personally now than I was back then. And many aspects also of my playing, it's interesting to kind of watch older videos
Mhm,
because I think we're always growing and changing as
mhm,
as musicians. But I think for me, I the ability to feel comfortable on stage has to do with the understanding of the context that I'm in,
mhm,
which is sort of, I mean, ultimately, if I think about it, it comes from because I really love the music that I'm playing, and I want to create an environment if I'm going to be performing where people can feel like they can also experience that magic. And so, in a way, it's not really about me.
mhm,
Um, in that moment of performing, and I think that liberates me.
mhm,
And the more I think about myself or what others might be thinking of my playing or pleasing somebody, the more I sort of get taken out of that zone of just
mhm,
openness and yeah, I remember that performance that you talked about, for instance, at Curtis. It was actually a special moment for me because I knew that it was going to be my last performance on that stage as a student, and
mhm,
I remember there was so much going on those weeks that I didn't really have time to practice the piece so much. But I felt, you know what, I'm really going to enjoy this moment, enjoy this hall with these people who I care so much about, and somehow because of that, I felt easy to express what I wanted to in that moment. And then,
mhm.
and the fun thing about it is that probably if I would play the piece again today, it would be something completely different. But um, but yeah, it's an interesting question in that sense of how does one feel comfortable, and ultimately to me it always comes down to sort of, yeah, the love for the music and the understanding that, you know I want to invite people into this world of the music,
Mhm.
and I know what it feels like to be in the concert hall, and I know, at least for me, what kinds of things I respond to. And when a performer is able to sort of really open themselves to the moment, and you feel like the music is almost being composed
Mhm.
in front of your eyes, that can be very, very magical, as opposed to the pressure that you can sense from an audience member when somebody is holding themselves accountable to the ideas of, exactly what they've practiced, and oh God, I hope that this is in tune,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
you feel this. It's a very, I mean, it's a very human art form, is performing, and so all of these things I think are very transparent.
yeah. Well, and you brought up such an interesting point earlier about, you're able to be more in your zone when you get out of the headspace of, for lack of a better word, this desire to please people in the audience, I guess.
Mhm.
And that's really interesting because I think naturally, just because of the way, you know, you know, we're taught by a teacher from the very beginning. So we're almost conditioned to care about what someone is, thinking about our playing, right? From the very beginning. And so in a way, like we have to kind of unlearn that condition. And I don't know if that was ever the case for you, or if you just never thought about it that way, or
No, it's a good point, because I mean, like so many things in life, like both can be true simultaneously. Simultaneous truths of when it comes time, you have to be able to be free, but also, of course, there's so much to receive and to learn and to take seriously, to be humble enough to really listen to those who are guiding you. Yeah, it's definitely a dance. I think it's a hard thing to talk about because I think every person and every situation is super different. But one thing that I can say, at least for myself, is that I've been fortunate to work with a huge variety of musicians, and a lot of people at operating at the highest level of artistry. And
yeah,
what you notice is that all of them are completely different from one another,
yeah,
but they're the same in the way that they somehow manage to find um, resonance or truth in what they're doing, just
mm,
expressed in a different way.
mm,
And I think because I've been able to work with a lot of different sort of people, and especially these days, also, I am back studying after a few years of not
mm,
studying in Europe,
right,
and
right,
meeting a lot of really interesting people there. It's through the contrast. It's also a source of liberation, but also you start to notice patterns. Um,
mm,
you can receive a lot of interesting feedback that might, seeds planted that maybe even months later or years later you think, oh, I finally understand what that person was trying to tell me. And
mm,
great teachers, I think, are able to sort of help people understand or find a way into certain concepts through their own language.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, it's a really fascinating topic, I think.
yeah, yeah. Well, and quickly before we move on, do you have like a ritual or tangible things you do before you go on stage to help alleviate any nerves that you might have? I mean, I know friends
Hmm.
that will always have a banana with them backstage, or for
Yeah.
you, is it
Mhm.
meditating, or oh, I'm curious. Yeah.
Well, I do like bananas before before performing,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I haven't that ritual I haven't been doing recently at all. Um, oof, I don't know, maybe some kind of, I would say I'm not the most like ritual type of person. I kind of
Mhm.
every time's a little different.
Sure.
Almost maybe that's almost my routine, is I try to not have too much of a routine, because
Uh,
I get a bit superstitious if, okay, I've got to do this and this and this, and
yeah.
then it puts
Yeah.
it to me. While for some people it might comfort them, to me it puts a
Yeah.
bit of pressure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Maybe I try to. I like to sort of connect with people,
Mhm.
even just in the seconds before going on stage, or after I'm done doing my warming up or whatever,
Yeah.
or even walking if I'm playing with an orchestra. Like as I'm walking
Yeah.
on stage, just one or two individuals in the audience. an eye contact, some a musician in the orchestra, and just
Yeah.
that human connection, I think, puts me
Yeah.
at ease. And that's a bit of a, I would say, maybe a ritual in a sense. And then also just the gratitude for being able to do what I'm doing. That's crucial for me, is reminding myself and just really, or more than reminding, feeling a sense of gratitude towards the music,
Mm,
towards this opportunity that I have to share it.
mm,
And I think from that place, I generally feel pretty okay. And then sometimes you find it midway through the performance, and I mean, it's never the same, but
mm.
it's thrilling because of that. Like I think I'm a little bit addicted to this thing of being a musician because it's
Yeah.
not it's never, as much as you might try to make routines, ultimately it's always going to be different. You're always going to feel different, and it's a process of just growing and discovering new things and being able to also say, okay, that performance was today. I have to
Yeah.
look towards tomorrow, with a sort
Yeah.
of fresh attitude and not carrying too much baggage.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's I think you bring up such a good point because you see performers or soloists that try to have a certain routine or ritual before they go on stage, and it's almost a little unrealistic because for a lot of you guys, I mean, you included, obviously, you guys are traveling to different cities every time and performing, so it's like your body time clock could be off, something else could be off, your mental state isn't always going to be the same every time, so to try and expect and hold yourself to that uh standard of keeping things the same every time, I wouldn't say that's really realistic. So
Mhm. Yeah,
yeah.
but for some people, it's really, I mean, for some people, I think it has a lot to do with personality
Yeah.
because for some people, it's the thing that helps them be free. Um,
Sure. Yeah.
um, yeah.